Shalom. Today I am going to tell you about beef. Beef is the culinary name for meat from cattle. Beef can be prepared in various ways. Cuts are often used for steak, which can be cooked to varying degrees of doneness, while trimmings are often ground or minced are found in most hamburgers. Beef contains protein, iron and vitamin B12. Along with other kinds of red meat, high consumption is associated with an increased risk of colorectal cancer and coronary heart disease, especially when processed. Beef has a high environmental impact, being a primary driver of deforestation with the highest greenhouse gas emissions of any agricultural product. In prehistoric times, humankind hunted oryx and later domesticated them. Since that time, numerous breeds of cattle have been bred specifically for the quality and quantity of their meat. Today, beef is the third most widely consumed meat in the world after pork and poultry. As of 2018, the United States, Brazil and China were the largest producers of beef. Some religions and cultures prohibit beef consumption, especially Indic religions like animal slaughtering, and Buddhism and Hinduism and Sikhs are also against animal slaughtering, but they do not have a wrongful eating doctrine. The word beef is from the Latin word bos, in contrast to cow, which is from Middle English cow. Both words have the same Indo-European root. After the Norman conquest, the French-speaking nobles who ruled England naturally used French words to refer to the meats they were served. Thus, various Anglo-Saxon words were used for the animal by the peasants, but the meat was called beef, or modern French boeuf, by the French nobles, who did not often deal with the live animal when it was served to them. This is one example of the common English dichotomy between the words for animals with largely Germanic origins and their meat with Romanic origins, that is also found in such English words pairs as pig, pork, deer, venison, sheep, mutton and chicken poultry. Also the less common goat, chevron. Beef is cognate with bovine through the Latin late boviris. The rarely used plural form of beef is beeves. Now let's see about the history of beef. People have eaten the flesh of bovine since prehistoric times. Some of the earliest known cave paintings, such as those as Lascaux, show oroches in hunting scenes. People domesticated cattle to provide ready access to beef, milk and leather. Cattle have been domesticated at least twice over the course of evolutionary history. The first domestication event occurred around 10,500 years ago with the evolution of Bos taurus. The second was more recent, around 7,000 years ago, with the evolution of Bos indicus in the Indian subcontinent. There is a possible third domestication event 8,500 years ago with a potential third species, Bos africanus, arising in Africa. In the United States, the growth of beef business was largely due to expansion in the Southwest upon the acquisition of grasslands through the Mexican-American War of 1848 and later the expulsion of the Plains Indians from this region and the Midwest. The American livestock industry began, starting primarily with the farming of wild longhorn cattle. Chicago and New York City were the first to benefit from these developments in the stockyards and in their meat markets. Beef cattle are raised and fed using a variety of methods including feedlots, free-range ranching, backgrounding and investive animal farming. Concentrated animal feeding operations, that is CAFOs, commonly used to meet the demand of beef production. CAFOs supply 70.4% of cows in the US market and 99% of all meat in the United States supply. Cattle CAFOs can also be a source of E. coli contamination in the food supply due to the prevalence of manure in CAFOs. These E. coli contaminations include one strain which can be toxic to humans because cattle typically hold this strain in their digestive system. Another consequence of unsanitary conditions created by high density confinement system is increased use of antibiotics in order to prevent illness. An analysis of FDA sales data by the Natural Resources Defense Council found 42% of medically important antibiotic use in the US was on cattle, posing concerns about the development of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. In 2023, production was forecast to peak by 2035. Mean greenhouse gas emissions for different food types. Greenhouse gas emissions. Ruminant meat 62. Recirculating aquaculture 30. Trawling fishery 26. Non-recirculating aquaculture 12. Pork 10. Poultry 10. Dairy 9.1. Non-trawling fishery 8.6, eggs 6.8, starchy roots 1.7, wheat 1.2, maize 1.2, legumes 0.25. Food types: lamb and mutton 185, beef 164, cheese 41, pork 11, poultry 7.1, eggs 5.7, farmed fish 3.7, groundnuts 3.5, peas 3.4, tofu 2.2. The consumption of beef poses numerous threats to the natural environment of all agricultural products. Beef requires some of the most land and water, and its production results in the greatest amount of green gas emissions, air pollution and water pollution. A 2021 study added up greenhouse gas emissions from the entire life cycle including production, transportation and consumption, and estimated that beef contributed about 4 billion tons, that is 9% of anthropogenic greenhouse gases in 2010. Cattle population graze around 26% of all land on earth, not including the large agricultural fields that are used to grow cattle feed. Ranching-induced deforestation is one of the main causes of loss of some unique plant and animal species in the tropical rainforest of Central and South America, as well as carbon release in the atmosphere. Beef is also the primary driver of deforestation in the Amazon, with around 80% of all converted and land being used to rear cattle. 91% of Amazon land deforested since 1970 has been converted to cattle ranching. However, assumptions about feed quality are implicit in such generalization. For example, production of a kilogram of beef cattle live weight may require between 4 and 5 kilograms of feed high in protein and metabolized energy content, or more than 20 kilograms of feed of much lower quality. A simple exchange of beef to soybeans, a common feed source for cattle in Americans' diet, would, according to one estimate, result in meeting between 46 and 74% of reductions needed to meet the 2020 greenhouse gas emission goals in the United States as pledged in 2009. Some kinds of beef may receive special certification or designation based on criteria including their breed. Certified Angus beef, certified Hereford beef, origin Cobb beef, Came d'Avila, Belgian blue, or the way the cattle are treated, fed or slaughtered, organic, grass-fed, kosher or halal beef. Some countries regulate the marketing and sale of beef by observing criteria post-slaughter and classifying the observed quality of meat. In 2018, the United States, Brazil and China produced the most beef with 12.22 million tons, 9.9 million tons and 6.46 million tons respectively. The top three beef exporting countries in 2019 were Australia, 14.8% of total exports, the United States 13.4% of total exports and Brazil 12.6% of total exports. Beef production is also important to the economics of Japan, Argentina, Uruguay, Canada, Paraguay, Mexico, Belarus and Nicaragua. Beef exports countries: Brazil, Australia, United States, India, Argentina. The world produced 60.57 million metric tons of beef in 2020, down 950k metric tons from the prior year. Major decline for production of beef was from India, up to 510k, and Australia down to 309k metric tons from the prior year. Beef production: United States, Brazil, EU 27, China, Argentina, India, Australia, Mexico, Russia, Pakistan. National cattle herds country: India, Brazil, China, United States, EU, Argentina, Australia, Russia, Mexico, Colombia. By 2017, it was already reported that farmers in Nepal kept fewer cattle due to losses imposed a longer hot season. Cow-calf ranches in southeast Wyoming are expected to suffer greater losses in future as the hydrological cycle becomes more variable and affects forage growth. Even though the annual mean precipitation is not expected to change much, there will be more unusually dry years as well as unusually wet years, and the negatives will outweigh the positives. Keeping smaller herds to be more flexible when dry years was suggested as an adaptation strategy. Since more variable and therefore less predictable precipitation is one of the well-established effects of climate change on the water cycle, similar patterns were later established across the rest of United States. Now let's see about the preparation. Cuts. Most beef can be used as is by merely cutting into certain parts such as roast, short ribs or steaks, that's fillet, mignon, sirloin steak, rump steak, rib steak, ribeye steak, hanger steak, while other cuts are processed. Corned beef of beef jerky. Trimmings on the other hand, which are usually mixed with meat from older, leaner, therefore tougher cattle, are ground, minced or used in sausages. The blood is used in some varieties called blood sausage. Other parts that are eaten include other muscles and offal such as the oxtail, liver, tongue, tripe from the reticulum or rumen glands. Particularly the pancreas and thymus, referred to as sweetbread. The heart, the brain, although forbidden where there is danger of bovine spongiform encephalopathy, that is BSE, commonly referred to as mad cow disease. The kidneys and the tender testicles of the bull, known in the United States as calf fries, Pirari oysters or Rocky Mountain oysters. Some intestines are cooked and eaten as is, but are more often cleaned and used as natural sausage casings. The bones are used for making beef stock. Meat from younger cows, thus calves, is called veal. Beef from steers and heifers is similar. Beef is first divided into primal cuts, large pieces of the animal initially separated by butchering. These are basic sections from which steaks and other subdivisions are cut. The term primal cut is quite different from prime cut, used to characterize cuts considered to be of higher quality. Since the animal's legs and neck muscles do the most work, they are the toughest. The meat becomes more tender as distance from hoof and horn increases. Different countries and cuisines have different cuts and names, and sometimes used the same name for different cut. For example, the cut described as brisket in the United States is from a significantly different part of the carcass than British brisket. To improve tenderness of beef, it is often aged, that is stored refrigerated, to allow endogenous proteolytic proteins. Wet aging is accomplished using vacuum package to reduce spoilage and yield loss. Dry aging involves hanging primals. The outer surface dry out and can support growth of molds. Meat from less tender cuts or older cattle can be mechanically tenderized by forcing small sharp blades through the cuts to disrupt the proteins. Cooking methods. These methods are applicable to all types of meat. Dry heat method. So friends, these are the things of meat. Bye. Catch you in another episode.